guys, Pat here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. So today I'm working on rust abatement for a battery box, or a steel battery box. So most of you probably got something sitting in your driveway if it's got any age to it. And the battery box, after a while, they just get rotted out. Especially if you have lead acid batteries. For some reason they might boil over or whatever. And once that happens, rot starts to happen. So what I got behind me is a wooden miser sawmill, and I was going to replace the battery in it because I left the ignition switch on in auxiliary. And when I came out to find it the next time, it was dead, and the AGM battery wouldn't take a charge. So anyway, pulled the battery out and go to replace the battery, and notice that there's a little bit of rust in the bottom of the box. So well, now's a good time to clean that up, get it painted, and hopefully it'll last a long time. I'll get you guys in here and let you have a close-up view of this battery box. This box is on a 2012 wood miser sawmill. The box isn't that bad. There's just a couple of places where you have the black pitted areas where the rust is really getting into the metal. All the rest that you see here, where it's a light color, is where the paint is starting to bubble. Whenever you have a paint that's starting to bubble, then you're going to have places for moisture intrusion, and then you start getting the pitting. Some of these bubbles in here were caused from me. The first thing I did is I washed the box out to make sure there wasn't any grease in there. So I took soap and water, just regular dish soap, and scrubbed this out. Then I took a air chisel and just worked the bottom where the rust was, and any place where I might have seen a little bit of a bubble in the paint. If you don't know what I mean by the bubble in the paint, let me see if I can find one. I see that I missed one here. Right here, you can see where that paint is bubbling. And anytime you have a situation like that, obviously the paint is loose, and you're gonna get moisture infiltration in there. Now some people might think that I'm going overboard by doing what I'm doing, but a battery box is a pretty vulnerable spot to have problems with rust. So everything is still really solid here. There's no real big issues. The welds are all good. So I went back and forth with a combination of a steel brush. I got this little steel brush here that works really good for getting into the corners. So I use this quite frequently. I used emery cloth, the wet dry sandpaper. This is 200 grit sandpaper, and you can utilize this in moist conditions or dry conditions. And so I did some sanding. I used that air hammer. After I got it fairly well clean, I took an air nozzle, and any place where I seen any bubbled paint, I went through and just put the tip right down on top of the metal, and it actually helped to remove some of those little pockets, or those little bubbled paint. So I worked that some more, went back and forth with the air chisel. So back and forth with these two things. And then after I felt pretty satisfied with the sanding and the steel brush, so then I just took some Naval Jelly. What I typically do with that stuff is I lather it on pretty good with just a real cheap sash brush, and just lathered it on really good. So after I applied it, I let it set for 10 minutes, and then I rinsed it off, and then I applied some more again. I did it one more time, so I got 2 coats, or I treated it twice with a Naval Jelly. It does a good job of removing rust. I was told by somebody that putting baking soda on there, which is a base, also dissolves rust. So I thought, well, you know what, let me try that, see how it works. I really wasn't impressed with the baking soda as I was with the Naval Jelly. I think it was one of our viewers told us about using citric acid. Well, that's an acid. So I thought I'd give that a try, and I think that actually worked a little bit better. So anyways, after I got done treating it twice with the Naval Jelly, I was able to find some more bubbled paint on here, so I went ahead and went with the air and just kept working off any of that bubbled paint, raised paint there. And after I got done doing that, then I went ahead and treated it with Phospho. So what Phospho does is it turns iron oxide, which is rust, into iron phosphate. And so I got that curing. They want you to leave that on there for about 30 minutes and then rinse with water and dry it, prime it, and paint it. Or if you're not really concerned about how things look, you can just, I just use a sash brush and apply it with that, and then let it dry overnight. Then you can paint it. I've already applied the Phospho. The Phospho is dry now, and now what I'll do is I'm going to take some primer and prime it. This isn't Mama Rain's dryer. I got this at a garage sale. So I'm going to take the hair dryer and I'm going to warm this up a little bit. A lot of times around here it's pretty cool weather and high humidity, so the hair dryer just kind of helps the bonding action of the paint. The other thing a guy can do is wipe down this before he paints it with some acetone, just to make sure that there's no grease or anything and no residue left on here. So now with that particular primer, you just wait till the gloss goes away, and then you can apply the top coat. So now I'm going to put some of this rubberized coating. This is a Flex Seal stuff everybody's been going on about. I don't know much about it, but it's if it says rubberized, I'm good with that, because what that will do for me, although the battery's actually got a clamping system that clamps it to the inside of the battery box, I still think there's vibrations and different things that help augment the decay process. So if I put a rubberized coat on there, an underlayment of sorts, then it's a lot thicker, so I don't think that you're not going to have as much problem with chafing and such. So here we go. I'm going to let that set up, and in my opinion, I think it's probably going to be as good as new, if not better. As you can tell, I'm not really concerned about, the transition between black and orange. I would rather do what I did here as opposed to painting all my wires. I could have probably done a little cleaner job in making this transition around here, but I'm not really that concerned about it. I'm more concerned about protecting it than aesthetics. I don't want it to look terrible. That's why I masked it off, and then the cover is going to go ahead and subdue the rest of that. After the battery goes in and I get all my connections hooked up, this cover goes over top of that, so that's going to hide all of that black paint. So anyway, hope that was resourceful to somebody. Thanks for stopping by. Take care, and God bless.